There is a woman from the 1950s who is in her late 80s today. She has almost no wrinkles. Her skin is firm, clear, and luminous. When people ask her secrets, she does not mention a single product that costs more than a few dollars. She points to a small pot of Pond's cold cream on her vanity and says, "We simply knew how to take care of ourselves." What if everything the modern beauty industry is selling you right now is a distraction from what actually works? What if the most powerful anti-aging system ever practiced was perfected not in a lab, but in a 1950s kitchen, vanity table, and weekly ritual? Today, we uncover every single one of those forgotten secrets. The golden standard. What 1950s skin actually looked like. To understand why the beauty secrets of 1950s women are worth studying, you first have to understand what their skin actually looked like, and why. Look at photographs of everyday women from that era, not just Hollywood stars, and you will notice something striking. Their skin is clean, even-toned, and relatively unlined even in their late 20s and early 30s. They were not using retinol. They did not have hyaluronic acid serums or niacinamide. Yet the standard of skin health they maintained is something millions of women today are actively trying to recreate. The 1950s represented a specific cultural moment in history where the economy was booming, and the average consumer had more money for beauty purchases than previous generations. But here is the thing that most people miss. That increased budget was not spent on complicated, multi-product systems. It was spent on learning discipline, ritual, and consistency. Those three principles, more than any single ingredient or product, are what gave that era its distinct edge in skincare. By the 1950s, the peaches and cream complexion was the basis of all skincare trends. Foundations and pressed powders were designed to promote a soft, feminine look, which meant that the actual skin underneath had to be in excellent condition. Unlike today, where heavy coverage foundation can mask a multitude of skin issues, the makeup of that decade required the canvas to be nearly perfect on its own. That single reality forced women to prioritize their actual skin health far above their makeup application. Secret number 1. The double cleanse. A ritual before its time. The 1950s is when women started doing a double cleanse, first with cold cream, then with soap and cold water. This is not a Korean beauty trend invented in the 1950s. It is a 1950s standard. The practice was precise, methodical, and carried out twice daily without exception. The first step of the double cleanse always involved the cold cream, with Pond's cold cream and Noxzema being the two most beloved brands of the era. These multi-purpose creams served as cleansers, moisturizers, and makeup removers, making them an indispensable part of any woman's beauty routine. The thick, creamy texture of cold creams allowed them to dissolve makeup and impurities while simultaneously nourishing the skin. The application technique was itself a form of massage, as recorded in a genuine 1950s educational film titled "Good Grooming for Girls." The presenter instructed, "Start to work with the cold cream. Smooth it on thoroughly all over the face, clear up to the hairline and down under the jaw. Give extra attention to the pockets at the base of the nose and the cleft of the chin. Spread the cream on using little spiral motions, always working upwards. But please, not too rough. No need to pull or push your face around. It's a gentle massage with the cream that gets results." That instruction is extraordinary in its precision. After the cold cream was tissued or wiped off with cotton wool, the second cleanse followed with soap and water, using a washcloth. The narrator of a 1950s beauty film stated, "Nothing can take the place of your daily bath or shower. This is the time to give your skin a good invigorating workout." The washcloth served as a gentle physical exfoliant that kept the surface of the skin smooth and clear without any chemical assistance. What made this double cleanse so effective was its regularity. Going to bed with makeup on was a big no-no, and was frowned upon as laziness. This was not optional. It was not something done when you remembered or when you were not too tired. It was done every single night, without negotiation. That consistency over years and decades is what built skin resilience that is nearly impossible to replicate with a sporadic modern routine. Secret number 2. Cold cream and the power of occlusion. Beyond cleansing, cold cream held a second, equally powerful role in the 1950s skincare arsenal: overnight moisture therapy. Moisturizing was a non-negotiable aspect of the 1950s skincare regimen. Women of the era placed great importance on keeping their skin hydrated and supple, using rich, creamy moisturizers to achieve this. These moisturizers often contained ingredients like lanolin and glycerin, known for their ability to provide deep hydration and create a protective barrier against environmental stressors. Petroleum jelly was the facial moisturizer of choice for overnight use, and women would also smooth on body lotion or shea butter to keep the skin on their arms and legs smooth. The science behind this practice is now well understood. Petrolatum, the primary ingredient in petroleum jelly, is one of the most effective occlusive agents known to dermatology. It does not add moisture to the skin directly, but it seals the moisture already inside, preventing transepidermal water loss with an efficiency that even modern formulations struggle to match. The Constance Hart Handbook of Beauty, published in 1955, prescribed a detailed nighttime regimen that specifically advised, if skin is dry, leave a thin film of the cream all over your face for overnight. If skin is half and half, leave a thin film of the cream on dry patches for overnight. This level of personalization based on skin type was remarkably sophisticated for its time. It recognized that not all skin is the same, and that the remedy had to match the individual condition. Today, even upscale products like Crème de la Mer are just reimagined iterations of mass-produced cold cream moisturizer. The fundamental chemistry has not changed. What has changed is the marketing, the packaging, and the price tag. Women in the 1950s were getting functionally equivalent results for a fraction of the cost, and they were doing so with a clarity of purpose that is rarely seen in modern skincare culture. The weekly facial, a scheduled, disciplined practice. One of the most striking features of 1950s beauty culture was the structured weekly beauty ritual. This was not left to chance or mood. A beauty routine discovered in a 1952 women's magazine assigned specific beauty tasks to each day of the week. Monday was dedicated to facial cleansing and mask application, while subsequent days covered different aspects of grooming and skincare. The weekly facial was treated as a sacred appointment, not a luxury. DIY facials were prescribed as a weekly ritual by women's magazines, and the concept of improving circulation to the skin, as well as cleansing and tightening pores, became more popular. Typically, a weekly at-home facial involved 3 distinct steps: a deep cleanse with cold cream, followed by facial steaming over a basin of hot water, and then a mask applied to draw out impurities and tighten pores. Facial steaming, in particular, was a practice that women took seriously. To clean their pores, women would steam their faces over a basin of hot water. This opened the pores, allowed deeper penetration of the cold cream or mask that followed, and improved circulation to the surface of the skin. The 1950s introduced the concept of facials as a means of relaxation and rejuvenation, aligning with the post-war desire for pampering and self-care. It was both beauty and mental restoration in one ritual. The Handbook of Beauty from 1955 also included a telling instruction that is almost forgotten today. If you're over 30, give yourself a 5-minute facial. This was a targeted directive aimed at starting anti-aging practices early. It reflected the understanding, even in the 1950s, that prevention was more powerful than correction. Women who maintained these weekly rituals before the age of 30 were effectively building a long-term barrier against premature aging. Secret number 4, the 5-minute facial massage and its science. Facial massage was prescribed so consistently in 1950s beauty literature that it is impossible to overlook. Massages were a typical magazine-recommended solution for preventing signs of aging like fine lines and jowls. The specific guidance was to perform 5 minutes of facial massage as part of the evening routine, using the cold cream application as the medium for the massage itself. This was not a casual random rubbing of the face. The technique was deliberate and directional, always working upward against gravity, using circular motions. The reasoning was rooted in a practical understanding of anatomy, that the facial muscles, like all muscles, respond to regular stimulation, and that blood circulation to the skin surface directly influences its tone, radiance, and elasticity. Modern science has validated this intuition. Increased blood circulation delivers more oxygen and nutrients to skin cells and accelerates the removal of waste products. Lymphatic drainage through gentle massage reduces puffiness and inflammation at the cellular level. Women in the 1950s did not have the vocabulary of lymphatic drainage or cellular oxygenation, but the results they achieved through consistent practice were the living proof of the method. A beauty standard documented from that era stated that a woman over the age of 25 should spend 10 minutes twice a day doing a special face massage to keep skin toned and wrinkles away. That instruction, applied daily from the mid-20s onward, means thousands of hours of facial muscle activation and circulation stimulation over the course of a decade. The cumulative effect of that practice is profound and measurable in the long-term health of the skin. Witch hazel, rosewater, and the lost art of toning. The modern skincare market sells toners at premium prices, marketing them with complex ingredient lists and clinical-sounding claims. Women in the 1950s were using witch hazel and rosewater as toners, ingredients that have been known for their benefits to skin health for centuries. Jergens, Nivea, and Vaseline were recommended as emollients, which were used as often as you washed your face. Using witch hazel and rosewater as a toner was used by some women as a standard step between cleansing and moisturizing. Witch hazel is a natural astringent derived from the bark and leaves of the Hamamelis virginiana plant. It tightens the skin, reduces inflammation, removes residual impurities after cleansing, and minimizes the appearance of pores. Its efficacy is not a folk claim. It has been studied and confirmed across multiple dermatological reviews. Rosewater, meanwhile, has a pH level remarkably close to that of healthy human skin, making it a natural balancing agent that soothes irritation and prepares the skin to absorb moisture more effectively. The Erno-Laszlo Normalizer Shake-It Toner prescribed to Marilyn Monroe in her documented 1959 skincare prescription from the Makeup Museum's Pink Jungle and 1950s Makeup in America exhibition served the same balancing and preparatory function. Monroe was instructed to apply the toner to her entire face with a large piece of cotton, saturated to the dripping point. The generosity of the application was intentional. The skin was being thoroughly reset after cleansing before moisture was applied. The Marilyn Monroe Protocol, a prescription that survived decades. Perhaps the most fascinating documented skincare record from the 1950s is Marilyn Monroe's personalized skincare prescription from 1959, preserved and displayed as part of the Makeup Museum's exhibition. Monroe was working closely with the renowned Hungarian-born dermatologist Dr. Erno Laszlo, who was the preferred skincare physician for icons like Audrey Hepburn and Greta Garbo. The prescription reveals a routine of extraordinary attention to detail. Monroe was instructed to wash her face and neck in warm water with the Erno Laszlo Active Follicle Soap. After rinsing, she applied the Normalizer Shake-It Toner and then the P-Helitone eye cream under her eyes in tiny dots. Her bedtime ritual involved applying the Erno Laszlo Active Follicle Oil to her entire face, lips, and neck, with a large piece of cotton saturated to the dripping point. Dr. Erno Laszlo prescribed more hydrating products to combat Monroe's skin, which was on the drier side. What is significant about the Monroe prescription is not the brand names. Most of those products are discontinued, but the philosophy embedded in the protocol. Every step served a specific, deliberate function. The oil cleanse at night removed every trace of the day's residue. The toner balanced the skin's pH. The eye cream addressed the most delicate and age-prone area of the face with a specific, targeted product. Monroe was living in New York City and attending the actor studio to hone her craft, maintaining this rigorous routine even under the pressures of stardom. Her doctor's dietary instructions are equally noteworthy. Dr. Laszlo advised Monroe to stay away from nuts, chocolate, olives, oysters, and clams, a recognition that what enters the body manifests on the skin. The connection between diet and skin health, which modern dermatology now confirms through extensive research, was already being prescribed as clinical guidance to women in the 1950s. This was not wellness culture speculation. It was a doctor's written prescription. Beauty rest was not a metaphor. Women in the 1950s talked about getting their beauty rest all the time. Hollywood icons from the 1940s and 1950s like Marilyn Monroe always mentioned sleep as part of their important beauty secrets. This was not poetic language. It was a sincere belief, backed by observable results, that adequate sleep was a non-negotiable pillar of skin health. Sleep is now scientifically established as the period during which the body undertakes its most intensive cellular repair. The production of growth hormone, which plays a direct role in tissue regeneration, peaks during deep sleep stages. Cortisol levels, which when chronically elevated break down collagen and accelerate visible aging, dropped to their lowest levels during adequate nighttime sleep. The women of the 1950s did not know the biochemistry, but they lived in a culture that enforced the behavior, and their skin showed the results. The Handbook of Beauty from 1955 structured the evening routine around early preparation for bed, including a 10-minute rest in a darkened room with feet up and cotton pads soaked in witch hazel over the eyelids. This was a deliberately engineered wind-down protocol. It reduced cortisol, reduced eye puffiness through the astringent action of the witch hazel pads, and created the conditions for deeper, more restorative sleep. It was multifunctional, efficient, and entirely natural. Secret number 8. Sun awareness. Before it was mainstream, one of the most powerful and least discussed anti-aging practices of 1950 women was their relationship with sun exposure. Unlike the decades that followed, particularly the 1970s and 1980s, when tanning was pursued as a beauty ideal, many women of the 1950s actively protected their skin from the sun as a preservation strategy. Marilyn Monroe herself spoke of her disdain for excessive sunbathing, citing skin damage. Vanishing cream, a lightweight, skin-absorbing moisturizer used as a makeup base, was advertised with the explicit claim that it protects against chapping in cold weather and keeps skin looking younger longer. With the growing popularity of open-top motor vehicles and outdoor sports, advertising copy also claimed that these creams would protect against dirt and the sun. Photo protection was, in other words, built into the daily routine through these barrier products, even when dedicated sunscreens were not yet widely available for everyday consumer use. The discipline of protecting the face from environmental damage, whether through hat wearing, the use of barrier creams, or deliberately limited unprotected sun exposure, gave the skin of many 1950s women a structural advantage against premature aging. UV radiation is responsible for an estimated 80% of visible facial aging, according to modern dermatological research. A culture that instinctively minimized that exposure, even for different aesthetic reasons, was inadvertently running one of the most effective anti-aging programs ever practiced at scale. Secret number 9. The discipline of the eye area. Women of the 1950s understood something that many modern skincare routines still overlook. The skin around the eyes ages differently from the rest of the face and requires entirely separate, dedicated care. The Handbook of Beauty from 1955 prescribed, apply emollient cream to area around eyes. This was a nightly step, not a weekly one. It was applied separately, specifically, and consistently. The periorbital area, the skin surrounding the eye socket, is the thinnest skin on the human body, significantly more delicate than the skin on the cheeks or forehead. It has fewer sebaceous glands, produces less natural oil, and is subjected to thousands of mechanical movements daily, from blinking, squinting, and facial expression. It is the first area to show signs of fatigue, dehydration, and aging. 1950s beauty guides recognized this vulnerability and addressed it directly. In Marilyn Monroe's 1959 prescription, the eye area received dedicated treatment with a specific eye cream applied in a precise method, in tiny dots, rather than being rubbed in aggressively. For formal occasions, Monroe was instructed to extend the eye cream application across her entire face and neck, creating a full-face emollient treatment that maximized overnight hydration. This level of intentionality about the most age-sensitive area of the face was standard care, not special occasion luxury. Exfoliation without chemicals. Chemical exfoliation, AHAs, BHAs, retinoids, did not reach mainstream consumer skincare until the 1980s and 1990s. Yet women in the 1950s were achieving clear, smooth, renewed skin through consistent physical exfoliation practices that, when done correctly, delivered real and lasting results. Exfoliation was also becoming common, with some making a DIY scrub with lemon juice and sugar, a combination of mild alpha-hydroxy acid from the lemon and physical abrasion from the sugar that is functionally comparable to many modern exfoliating treatments. The twice-daily use of a washcloth on the face, practiced consistently, provided a low-grade physical exfoliation that kept the skin's surface clear of dead cell buildup. The weekly facial mask further deepened this effect by drawing impurities out of the pores and leaving behind a temporarily smoother, tighter surface. These were not isolated events. They were scheduled, repeating actions built into a system of care that operated cumulatively over months and years. The 1950s also saw the practice of brushing hair at least 100 strokes per night, which stimulated blood flow to the scalp, a practice that shares the same physiological logic as facial massage. The entire beauty culture of the era was built on the principle that physical stimulation of the skin, when applied consistently and with proper technique, yields compounding results over time. That principle is as biologically true today as it was in 1955. The modern skincare market will continue to evolve. Ingredients will come and go, Trends will rise and fall, but the anti-aging secrets that 1950s women practiced before the age of 30, the double cleanse, the overnight moisture barrier, the weekly facial, the 5-minute massage, the eye area protocol, the beauty rest, the sun awareness, are not trends. They are fundamentals. They worked then because they work with the biology of human skin, not against it. They work now for exactly the same reason. And unlike almost everything the modern beauty industry is selling, they cost almost nothing at all.